Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Ellen and in this video I'm going to be talking about the books that I finished in February and also the books I plan to read in March. Before I get started on this video, I just want to let you guys know I made a new Instagram account and I also made a Twitter account. So if you could check the description box below, I would really appreciate it. And if you would give me a follow, again, I'd also appreciate it. I'm really new to Twitter and I really don't understand it. So if anyone has any tips and tricks on how Twitter is useful, I would love your thoughts and your help with it because social media, I just really don't fully understand it. But I thought, if I could get some news on Twitter about book related stuff, then I think it would be fun and I would love to see your guys' content. So please check it out and I would love to follow you back. So without further ado, let's get into this video and I'm going to start with the book that I DNF'd and I don't want to talk about it too much, and that is You Can Never Tell by Sarah Warburton. I got this from my local library and I was just very underwhelmed. I couldn't make it past the 60-page mark. It was just so boring to me. I didn't care about the main character at all. This book is about this woman, I don't even remember her name. It's about a woman and her husband who moved from the East Coast to Texas, and that is because her former best friend falsely accused her of embezzlement, and she did that. She framed her because she was doing it herself, and she just chose her best friend to take the fall for it. And this lady was a museum curator or something like that. The situation really cost her her job and also her reputation, so she's having a really hard time finding more work and has left her really depressed and trying to start over in a new life. And so her and her husband decide to move. And this is like a thriller mystery novel. Like, she moves to this neighborhood, makes new friends, but then weird stuff starts happening like in their house and with some of their so-called friends. I just couldn't care about this main character at all. Like, in real life, if I knew someone who is going through something like this, I would be very empathetic and I would really care about what's going on. But this character, I can't really pinpoint why, but I just really don't care about what's going on with her. Something about the way she expresses her emotions, or just, I don't know. There's just something about her that's not very likable. And for me, a mystery thriller novel really has to hook me from the beginning and I have to really care about what goes on. And that just didn't happen with this book. So I'm going to return this and not feel bad about it at all. Next, I want to talk about the book that I'm currently reading. I do think I have a big chance of finishing this before February is over. I'm recording this on the second to last day of February. I'm currently halfway through, but I do plan to do a lot of reading today and tomorrow. So I'm including it in this video because I really think I can probably finish it or be close to finishing it. And that book is The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake. This is a dark academia novel, and I think this is my first dark academia book I've ever read, and I'm really enjoying this so far. Sometimes it's a little hard for me to wrap my head around some of like the physics talk and talk about gravity and stuff that goes on in here, but it is really fascinating to me. I really enjoyed science as a kid and even as an adult in school, so this was really interesting so far. You follow 6 points of view, and that is because there is this Alexandrian society who initiates 6 people. I don't know how often they do this, but they initiate 6 people with strong magical powers. This is set in like our current modern world, but everything is magical. There are of course humans, and then there's people who do magic, and that's not unheard of. And this society recruits 6 of the most powerful, promising initiates, and 6 can join the society, but only 5 get officially initiated. And you don't really know what happens to the other person who doesn't make it. In any case, these 6 people, you get their points of view who just get recruited. There's Reina Morty, which I'm really excited that there's a Japanese character in this. Yay, representation. She is a naturalist, so she can control plants and wildlife. She can control plants and nature. There is Libby Rhodes and Nico de Verona, they are rivals. They went to the same university. They just graduated and they're so glad to be rid of each other because they have very, very, very similar powers. And it is very infuriating for them because they never got to stand out on their own and they've often be pushed together. And right when they finally thought they could get rid of each other, they got recruited, both of them, and they are physics. So they can control the elements like fire, wind, and they have all sorts of cool powers in terms of manipulating the elements. There is Parisa Kamali. She is originally from Tehran and she is a telepath. She is known to be super beautiful and she kind of uses that to her advantage, but she's not super vain in the normal sense, I would say. But she is aware that her beauty is a tool. She's very smart and calculating, I would say. Then there's Tristan Kane, who can see through illusions, and he's trying to make a name for himself because of his kind of not very desirable connections with his family. And then there's Callum Nova, who is an empath, and he can kind of influence people's emotions and feel people's emotions. They all have really unique powers, and that's why they got chosen, and they're essentially competing with each other because eventually one person doesn't officially make it into this society. I think that this book is really interesting so far. Again, I'm only about halfway through, but I really do feel like I can finish this soon, and I really like this genre. Like, if you have any other dark academia recommendations, please leave them in the comments down below. I would love to hear your guys' suggestions if you have any other dark academia books that you've read and you really enjoyed. So, really happy with this one so far. The next book I'm going to talk about, I'm not going to talk too much about because I did a dedicated book review for it and I will link it down below. And that is House on Sand by Debbie Hanman. Debbie Hanman was my high school English teacher and this is her debut novel. This is a Christian fiction book, but I do feel like anyone could read this and really gain so much out of it. This book is about Ellie Gold, and she is a pastor's wife, and she has 2 sons, and she is an art teacher for middle school. And right in the very beginning, you're just thrown into her finding out that her husband Davis has been having an affair with her niece, Mariah. And that is not a spoiler, it is literally on the back, and it is first thing. This is a big, big double betrayal for Ellie because not only was she doing everything she can to make her marriage work, but she also helped raise Mariah, who didn't have the best parental influences growing up. So Ellie is just very devastated and she's trying to pick up the pieces and figure out what her life is going to look like from now on. And I just want to say the friendship is incredible in here, the potential love interest that she has, and also just finding out who she is, what's important to her, and leaning on God and her friends during this really big ordeal. It is just such a beautiful book full of hope. So I really highly encourage that you guys give this a chance and pick it up. And the last book that I finished in February is Do Not Disturb by A.R. Torr. This is the second book in the Deanna Madden trilogy. And I've said a lot of things about the girl in 6E. I feel like I've talked about it a lot recently, but it is about this girl named Deanna Madden, and she is a webcammer. She is a 22-year-old girl who decides to do webcamming as her profession. For 3 years, she has locked herself up into her apartment and does not want to come out into society, and so she decides to find a job that she can stay inside and never have to leave. She gets everything delivered to her door. And she chose webcamming because it is lucrative and she doesn't really have any other option, to be honest. And she does all this and sequesters herself because she has murdery thoughts. She daydreams about killing people, and she just, instead of acting on her impulses, she decides to hide herself away and to just keep herself busy and work a lot and doing camming to make her money and, you know, have it be a way for her to fulfill her days. And for the most part, it does distract her. But in the first book, you kind of find out that there is some kind of mystery parts to it. There are some other points of view that get woven into her story that gets really interesting. And finally, she not escapes, but she decides to venture out because she finds out something disturbing and she feels like this is something that she can help with and also something she wants to handle. It is an amazing series. This book got even better. She is just such a messed up, tormented character, but you can't help but root for her in a way. Like, I'd be really disturbed if someone like this was my neighbor, to be honest, but she does have her good parts. And I really think she's fascinating. And I really love how the author actually did interviews with actual webcammers about their profession. There are trigger warnings for this series though. There's a lot of sex talk in here, obviously, and obviously thoughts on how to kill people. So if you're easily triggered by that kind of stuff, then I don't recommend this series. But if you like a morally gray character who is very dynamic and interesting, but also messed up, I would highly recommend this series. It's really good. As to what I want to read in March, I only put 2 books on my March TBR just because these books are decent chunks and I just want to not overload myself. So for now, I'm really excited to say that reading the Atlas 6, it's not a full-on fantasy, but it does have a lot of magical elements to it. It is slowly getting me back into fantasy again. So once I finish the Atlas 6, I'm really excited to go back to The Winds of Strife by Eugene Gutman. I got to page 70 and I was really liking this, but I could just start to feel like my focus, like lose sense of wanting to read fantasy. I was just craving regular fiction at that point. And so it was nothing against the book. My brain was just like, I can't handle like new worlds and world building. Like, let's go back to contemporary fiction. And so now I'm really happy to say that I feel like my fantasy bug is coming back. So I'm really excited to finish this one and give you guys my thoughts on it. Like, I'm so excited for this author. I know Leslie from The Nerdy Narrative and Andrews from Andrews Wizardly Reads really like this, as well as Jessie May and other big time fantasy booktubers. So that makes me really excited for this. And I also had a chance to message Yuri, who is the author, and he's a really kind person. So I'm really excited to give his book a real chance now that my mind is finally getting back into fantasy. I really know from what I've read is that there is this world where the magic is based on emotions and harnessing different emotions, and each emotion gives you a different kind of power. And the plot, again, like what I went through, I don't really have too many details yet, but I'm really excited to learn more about this magic system and see what the story is going to be. So I'm really, really excited to pick this up again. And then the last book that I have, well, there's only 2, but the last book I have on my March TBR is House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas. This came out in February, just like a week or 2 ago, and I'm so excited for this. I really enjoyed Crescent City, the first Crescent City book, House of Earth and Blood, and I actually shed a tear at the end. Like, I know a lot of people have some problematic things about Sarah J. Maas just because sometimes the way her female characters are written or something like that, and I do understand those claims, but at the same time, I can't help but love her books. I haven't read her Throne of Glass series yet, but I did read the ACOTAR series, and again, I understand some of the things that people have said about it, but I can't help liking what I like, you know? And this book, all I know is it's a continuation from the first book, and I just know that there's going to be more trouble coming Bryce Quinlan's way, and I'm really excited to see how this continues on. The first book, The House of Earth and Blood, follows Bryce Quinlan, who works at an antique shop, and she is best friends with Danica, who is the head of one of the wolf packs. And they were just ride or die best friends. Like, they were always there for each other. And that friendship really reminds me of my 2 best friends that I have. We would literally do anything for each other, be there through thick and thin for each other. And Bryce and Danica have this really big bond. But right in the beginning of the first book, there is this disaster to where something horrible happens to Danica and her pack. And Bryce is tasked with trying to figure out why. I apologize if the angle's a little bit different. I was editing this video and then I realized that the end got chopped off. So excuse the heater that is on. I just wanted to finish this clip by talking about the House of Sky and Breath. Pretty much Bryce, Quinlan, and Danica have an amazing friendship, and then Bryce is tasked with finding out what happened to Danica and the pack. She is also getting help from an angel named Hunt, who is a slave to one of the higher angels in the city, and it is in his best interest to help Bryce, because if they are successful in figuring out what's going on and the potential person who is the cause of all this, then Hunt may be free. So it is an amazing story. I really enjoyed the first book, and I'm really hoping that I love this second one. I'm not really sure how many books are planning to be in these series, but in the front you have a list of all the different houses, and I believe there are 4 of them. So, the first one was House of Earth and Blood, and then House of Sky and Breath is the title of this book, so maybe there's 2 more books in the series. That's just a guess, but I'm really excited either way, and look how big this book is. So this is why I only have 2 books on my TBR. I want to finish Winds of Strife and then get to this one. So that is it, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. I would really appreciate it. And let me know down below in the comments if you have any help with Twitter or advice with Twitter or any dark academia recommendations. And let me know what you guys are excited to read in March. I would love to hear what you're most excited about. Okay guys, until next time, bye.